Hi, my name's Sraddhagita, and I'm here today with Suryagupta, the chair of the LBC. And I'm going to be talking to her for the next sort of 30 minutes or so, really starting with, how the last year's been, just to kind of break the ice a bit. So, how's your last year been, Suryagupta?
Well, I guess it's that time of year, isn't it, where you do pause a little bit, if you've got the opportunity to, and start looking back a little bit. I think I like to have this time of year quite quiet. I'm often on retreat. I will be spending a bit of time I am spending a bit of time sort of beginning to look back on the last year. And I would say on the whole, the last year was pretty challenging in many ways. Partly collectively, there's been this sort of coming out of lockdown. Are we going to go back into lockdown? That sort of uncertainty. And I think when I think back to the beginning of the year, I definitely thought, probably like a lot of people, thought by the end of the year, it would definitely be, would be on the tail end of COVID. And that's not the case. So it's been interesting this year working with that sort of uncertainty and the kind of ups and downs of it. And still within that, life goes on and practice goes on and learning goes on. And so it's been interesting, going with having those challenges. And at the same time, thinking, well, how am I going to grow through this? So, yeah.
Yeah. So what helped you during those periods of uncertainty? Are there any particular things that kind of sustained you in that time? Because, like you're saying, it has been a real time of uncertainty, and actually, most of your time as chair, there's been a pandemic.
I'm the COVID chair, of course. The chair during COVID times. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, how have you sort of sustained yourself in that time?
Well, actually, one of the things I've really appreciated about this whole period, I became chair in 2018. So I had, a bit of time before COVID. So COVID happened in March 2020. We sort of, like the rest of most of the world, closed down, as it were. We closed our buildings for the first time. Then had this sort of being at home in lockdown, as it were. What I've really appreciated is seeing change, seeing the positive aspects of change, seeing how we transformed, into a centre that was completely in person. We would do everything in person. We'd go on retreat. We'd spend a lot of time together, into a centre that was online, into actually establishing and connecting with people who from all parts of the world. And and this is a story that many people have had. Many people that work in different settings, have had this kind of experience where, in some ways, life closed down, but it also, for me, it opened up as well in terms of the range of different people I was encountering online. And just seeing how, different set of conditions, sort of there's a certain amount of creativity that comes to the fore. And I really felt like we relied on each other. We had to rely on other people to help, sort of connect with that energy to bring new things into being. Because I think pretty much everyone had times when it was too hard or it felt difficult. And so, that's the thing about community. If you're in community, if you're having one of those moments when things are a bit challenging and you can't see how you're going to respond differently to the circumstances you're in, somebody else at that point is feeling really inspired, feeling really engaged, comes up with new ideas, and that, it's a spark. It's a spark that then reminds you that you also have that capacity, and they sort of carry you through. So I felt we did that for each other in lots of different ways, and this year was no exception to that. Last year was sort of exceptional because we were, really locked down, as it were. This year we were sort of out in some ways, but not fully. So it sort of showed up differently, those challenges. but we still had to rely on each other. We still had to, rely on the fact that we have resources within, but sometimes we need other people, we need something to inspire us to access that. So for me, that definitely was the case this year. I sort of know I was that for many people. I was a spark for some people, but others were definitely the spark for me too.
Yeah, that's lovely, that image of a spark, isn't it? That we can sort of spark each other off, really. It reminds me a bit, actually, there's a lovely poem from Alice Walker where she talks about love, if it is love, never goes away. It's like these seams of gold in the earth, waiting for the light, waiting to be struck. And
say that again. Say the whole poem and say it to the...
Yeah, I'm just saying it to you first of all. But yeah, love, if it is love, never goes away. It is embedded in us like seams of gold in the earth, waiting for the light, waiting to be struck. So I guess why that poem came to mind is, well, partly it's about love, but I also think that it applies to creativity and inspiration. It's all of those things are sort of like seams, aren't they, that we can draw on or access. They're often waiting for a spark. And sometimes it's a spark from somebody else. Sometimes it's a spark, just from an unexpected place. Have there been any unexpected, sparks of inspiration?
Unexpected sparks of inspiration. Yeah, well, yes. I'll tell you one. I get up quite early. I've been doing that for a while too, so I have lots of time to meditate. Well, I say quite early. Depends, obviously, on your starting point. So, I get up around. Before this year, I was getting up around 5:30, which so I can practice, and that felt like a good thing. I was pleased that I was doing that. This year, I was given the challenge to get up even earlier than that.
Oh my goodness!
I know, at 4 o'clock.
Oh, wow!
And I must say, I kind of was like, why would I do that?
Why would you do that?
Why would I do that? I don't want to do that. No. And but then something intrigued me about that challenge. And the person who was giving it to me was saying, well, I would like you to get up at 4 and don't set your alarm. You're going to have to do it naturally. And I thought, well, that's not even possible. The only time I get up that early, if I'm going somewhere and I've got to, like catching a flight or something like that, occasionally in the days I did that. But anyway, something intrigued me about it, I have to say. And I thought, I didn't really think. I just thought, why would I do that? I probably am not going to do that. But why is she asking? I've had all these questions around it. Anyway, that next morning, I woke up and it was 4:15 in the morning. And obviously no alarm had gone off. I just woke up quite naturally. And I couldn't quite believe it. I thought, wow, it's 4:15 and I feel completely fine. And I've been always wanting to have a bit more time to meditate. So I sort of lay there for a little while, in disbelief that I was awake. And I didn't go back to sleep. And eventually I got up and sat on my cushion. And what the lovely unexpected surprise was that the moon was still up. And it was a beautiful moon. So I opened my curtains, there was this moon, and I suddenly felt like I was not alone. I was, the moon was witnessing my early morning meditation and lighting the space. So I sat to meditate, and by the time I was finishing, the moon had disappeared and the sun was rising. And again, it was very, very beautiful seeing the sun. And then obviously the birds had started. And it was just this sense of, I'm with this whole universe is constantly turning. And I'm not always aware of it because one can be busy in one's day and the details of one's life. But this universe is turning. And if I'm aware of it, if I can be with it and witness it and it witness me somehow, I feel very connected to life in all its forms. And the fact that we are on this spinning earth, And it was a complete unexpected inspiration, surprise. And I then began to look forward to that particular moment in the morning, which is completely quiet. I live near a motorway, so I now know by 6 o'clock you really I hear the hum of the motorway. So I began to really look forward to this kind of 4 o'clock, where actually it was pretty silent, and I look forward to the birds, and I look forward to the moon disappearing and the sun rising, and it was like I was very much in this vast experience that had been going from beginning of time. And for that to start my day, no matter what went on in my day, it was the details. It was just things unfolding, me doing what I need to do in the day, but I'm part of this universe, and I felt very grateful for that, actually. Yeah,
that's really beautiful. Part of a much bigger cycle that's happening, and
that's always happened. Since the beginning of time. And so it just puts things. It's about perspective. Something about inspiration. There's lots of different elements of inspiration, and I think during this time of year, we're often, might have been a busy year for many people. You might want to have a rest and feel kind of nourished or nurtured. If you've got the possibility to have that, but there's something about I often want to have the energy to move forward into the next year as well, and that's an aspect of inspiration. So there's lots of different aspects of it, but perspective is one of them, because what perspective does is give us a much broader canvas. We see things that's much larger than how we are often our limited view. And our limited view keeps us a bit confined and doing the habitual, And there's something about this year, which is where if you've got some perspective, you can look back at your previous year, the year that's just gone. If you can begin to recognise there's so much more to one's experience than we normally see, then suddenly you think, actually, there's more to me. There's more to me than I might normally experience, and you can allow that in. You allow that. The creativity, the seams of love that you're talking about to come in.
And it's great when nature sort of mirrors that, and it's sort of writ large. I mean, I was just remembering as you were talking about a lot of winter retreats that I've done where, around that time you see both the sun and the moon in the sky at the same time. And I love that I'd sometimes be standing in between the sun rising and the moon, setting, and this vast sky and really subtle light. I always found that really inspiring. So, I really love that sort of sense of spark. So light's very important, isn't it? Inner light and this sense of an outer light as well. And I know, your name has sun in it, doesn't it? It has sunlight and moon. Well, moonlight's my sense.
That's quite interesting. Yeah,
moonlight might be something sort of that's coming into being a bit more. I don't know.
But my name Suryagupta means she who is protected or guarded by the sun, and the sun was one of the epithets of the Buddha. It's also the qualities of the sun, warmth, energy, light, etc. And I love my name when I received it. I didn't even know the meaning of it when I was first given it. I just loved the sound of it. And then when I heard the meaning, I was like, what a beautiful, but quite poetic, but very poetic. But I didn't know. I thought, how are you protected by those qualities? Protected or even guarded by. So I've often contemplated the sun and what the sun does. The sun illuminates, doesn't it? The sun illuminates the darkness. It also warms things up. And it also, sometimes you can see, with this illumination, it has different phases, doesn't it? Like you've got the dawn, where everything is just, beginning to be seen. Then you've got the bright midday sun, which is like, quite intense. You can't, you can't quite, sometimes you have to protect yourself against it because it's intense. And then you've got the setting sun, and the setting sun is really warm. But that midday sun, you see everything in its brilliance. And the setting sun, it's like you can look at the darkness, you can look at difficult things. In it, you can actually take them in because there's a warmth around it. There's sort of much more softer light. So I've often thought of that in terms of my, the challenges that I've gone through. Sometimes when in a challenge for the very first time, it's like the midday sun. It's like, the sun is beaming down on that challenge, and I don't always, it's like you see something in all its glaring aspects, and it can be quite hard, as it were.
Yeah.
But then I know the setting sun's coming. Where you can then, with practice, with meditation, you can see the challenge that you might be in, but you bring warmth to it, so you can stay with it much more. So, that's how I thought about the sun. And of course, the sun gives you, it's energy. And I certainly, I like being active. I like doing things. I like the energy that happens in communication. I like the energy that happens when we do things together, when we create something. So it gets you moving. So that's another aspect of inspiration. Inspiration, it's perspective, but it's also what enables things to happen. Yeah. You're taking in air, oxygen, as it were, in order to do something with it. So that's the sun. But Sraddhagita, I want you to say about your name, because your name and your practice, because you have more the moon-like element, don't you? So you're more. You say that.
So the moon, yeah. So the moon's not in my name. My name, Sraddhagita, means she who sings the song of faith. But I've been practicing the White Tara practice for many years, and White Tara is a figure who's connected with the moon. So I do feel very connected with the moon. I find the subtlety of moonlight, really seems to fascinate me. And also, I think there are sort of different phases in the moon. There are the phases when we do need to rest. We do need to sort of restore, maybe conserve even our energy, our time, ourselves, in order to keep going. It's something about having a perspective of our overall journey and having the stamina to keep going, I guess. And for me, the moon feels like a bit of a symbol of that. So
you'd often tell me, I hope you don't mind saying it, Sraddhagita is my assistant, was my assistant, and my PA. And she'd look at my really full diary and me going from one meeting to another, and then say, Suryagupta, you need more moon in your life. And I must say, at the beginning, I was like, why? I'm fine. But actually, over time, because obviously sometimes I'd be like, I'm really tired, or I'd want to rest, you're always very good with that, Sraddhagita. You're always very good at trying to create those pauses and spaces. And it's interesting that, you're no longer my PA, but now I'm very connected to the moon. I'm actually begun to look at all the different phases of the moon and realise that, having the sun and moon as symbols is really helpful because of just what you said, because there are these phases in our lives. There's phases where we're inspired. We'll be talking about inspiration, where there's perspective, where there's energy, where you want to, take action and connect with people. But there are phases in life, and there are challenges in life that actually means we've got to, really go in and reflect, or even let go of things, heal, restore, as you was talking about. And that's particularly in this year, actually in COVID times, I probably lost, in terms of like cousins and that, probably about 4 members of my extended family. And, and each time that's happened, I've definitely felt like, it's not a place of inspiration, but it is a place of real reflection. It is a place of remembrance, remembering them. It is a place of, being open to sharing the sadness that comes, and allowing that to express itself and to release. So in a way, that's also part of life, isn't it? And I found that if I can create those spaces for that much more sort of reflective moon-like, qualities, it actually is also the conditions that help me re-engage with inspiration when the time is ready for energy again, for when it's ready to go to be active again. So I think we need both, and isn't it? It's great, isn't it, that we have the nature is actually showing us often what we need.
Yeah. And it can take a while, can't it, to sort of trust those processes and know them from your own experience. It does take the losses and the inspirations and the peaks and the troughs in a way of life and practice to be able to be okay with that somehow. And that's really important, isn't it? Because that's how you do build stamina, I guess, in your practice. Really.
It's interesting this year, isn't it? Because we've had those, certainly in the UK, and I think it's echoed in many parts of the world. We've had this get ready for opening up again, and everyone's been really, many people have been, not everybody, but many people have been sort of looking forward to that and excited. And there may have been those moments where you can connect with people. I remember the first few people that I saw, that I met to go for dinner, or, it was just like, it was just fantastic being able to be physically with people again. And then of course we've had to scale back at times. So it's almost been like this kind of, this year has also been like this opening up, this closing down again, or going back within again. So there's been this much more dramatic ebb and flow, I guess.
Yes.
So COVID is sort of it's a kind of artificial, not natural, or certainly a strange kind of ebb and flow. But nonetheless, we've had to respond differently each time. So I like what you said about stamina. I thought we've needed stamina this year. I've certainly needed it, but I've definitely felt supported by meditation practice, by friends, by friendships, by community, and by creating the conditions for inspiration to come into being.
And that then enables you in your work, to keep inspiring others, because part of your, work as chair isn't it, to sort of inspire others. You have a vision for being chair, and obviously that's had to adapt to changing conditions over the last couple of years, but the more you keep your inspiration sort of flowing, then that can flow out and inspire others, and that just seems such a crucial part of being chair, doesn't it, here at the centre? Well, I think I in my morning practice, I sort of bring lots of people to mind. It's always, sometimes it's crowded in my practice. I might start off. Actually, I don't start off solitary. I start off thinking of bringing people to mind, and then I kind of go, very much sort of within and do the particular practice that I'm doing, or practices that I'm doing that day. But then I always end it with many, many people as well. And within that, it's so rich because, within that, I definitely see people's, as I experience my own suffering, sometimes I see and experience other people's suffering in the practice. But I also see potential. I also see that we all are trying to grow. We are all doing our best, even if we go about it not always in the best ways, in the wisest of ways. And so I feel like, really what I'm doing in the practice is trying to, I'm trying to grow myself, as it were, grow perspective, really evolve my own consciousness, my own awareness. And I don't feel like I'm doing it for myself. I feel like I'm definitely doing it with others, for others. I've been
my own practice is on the shoulders of many other people. I'm part of a lineage. I'm part of a spiritual lineage, where many people have come before me. Many chairs. There have been 8 chairs before me.
Yeah.
I think I'm the 9th chair at the London Buddhist Centre. So there's been many chairs before me. There's been many practitioners before me. I've learned from all these different people. But I've also come from a family lineage as well. So I wouldn't be here without my mum and dad. And all the people that helped grow them. And I come from a lineage. I come from a creative lineage too. So. I've been an artist for a number of years. I'm inspired by music. I'm inspired by the arts in all its different forms. And, so I have people that I look to. You mentioned Alice Walker, for example. I saw her a couple of years ago in the States, and I realised, wow, she's somebody that has been an inspiration to many, many people. So I've got people like that in my life who I look to, who I draw nourishment from, particularly when things are challenging. I sort of bring people, my artist, inspirations to mind. And I have my inspirations of people who are dedicated to social justice, who are trying to create conditions for people to find freedom within the constraints of life that we have, and within the kind of systems of oppression and suffering that we have. So again, I wouldn't be here without people, like Martin Luther King and others, many others who kind of inspired me along the way. So they're all there in the morning. They're all there when I meditate in the mornings. And I feel deep gratitude actually to all the people who, in their different ways, whether it's through the arts, through social justice, through the spiritual tradition, through just trying to be good people and raise children and do things in the world and work and things like that. All those people care for others. I feel like I've been a benefit. I've benefited from all of that, and so it almost feels I'm just passing that on, in my day, in whatever way I can. Knowing that all those people, many of them have suffered through that, living life, but they've also contributed significantly. Yeah. And I feel that we can all do that in our different ways.
Yeah. That's wonderful. And I was thinking actually when you were talking about your early mornings, just going back to those, it really reminded me of someone I know that you're inspired by, Dado Rinpoche, who's one of Sangharakshita's teachers, our teacher. And, he had this whole sort of early morning routine where he did various practices, even before kind of cleaning his teeth, I think. So I don't know, when you were talking about these early mornings, somehow he came to mind. And then that kind of real connection that he had with life and young children, through his work in the school that he ran. I've always found him very inspiring. So... yeah, he's another person that just came to mind when you were talking.
So he's on my shrine.
He's on your list.
And I remember actually I first encountered him very early on. I think I'd only been involved for 2 weeks. So I didn't really know anything about Buddhism, didn't know anything about meditation or anything really. And I encountered this man called Dado Rinpoche, who was a Tibetan Lama. They were talking about his mornings. I was thinking, gosh, sounds amazing to get up at 4 o'clock. I can't even imagine it. I'd love to do that one day. I remember thinking that. But he would have these really elaborate rituals that he would do, several hours. And then he would then go and work with the Tibetan refugees, children in the school. And then in the evening, he would do another set of elaborate rituals. And I just thought, what an incredible way to live your day. And very much in sort of service, but really seeing, his connection. Well, in a way, his practice was the inspiration. And apparently he had effortless energy as well, and effortless creativity, and he'd be very responsive and be able to sort of produce things when they needed to be produced, from all his depth of practice. So he's still a very strong inspiration of mine. I kind of, in a way, what that shows is that, you know, what consciousness is, what is possible for consciousness to become. That very much is a strong inspiration.
Great. Well, what are you going to be doing over the next sort of few weeks? I know you've got a few things coming up.
Yeah. Well, Christmas itself Day, I probably will be with my sister. She says, "Oh, if you want to come over." So I'll come over probably to my sister. I don't really celebrate Christmas for myself so much, but my son, my son and I will partake in some of the festivities. All going well, that is. and then I'm going to be. And then I'll spend a few days sort of, just quiet, really, which I enjoy around this period. And then I'll do a week of teaching morning meditations. So I'm really looking forward to that.
So when are the morning meditations starting?
Week after Christmas. So if you're watching this and you'd like to join in, I'm sure there'll be a link below that you can tap into. So I really enjoy that. We did lots of morning meditations during lockdown, and it was one of my favourite things to do, just connecting with lots of people in the mornings, me sharing some of my morning, with many, many people. So I'll have a week of that, which I'm looking forward to. Yeah.
Great. So that's, if you want to spend your first meditation of the day, or maybe it'll be your second or third, who knows? If you're up at 4 like Suryagupta, maybe it'll be your...
I don't always get up before.
Some of the time. Anyway, you could meditate with Suryagupta for the next, week or so, really. Be great. She'd love you to join her. So do think about that.
And what are you going to be doing?
What am I going to be doing? I'm going to be hopefully visiting a close friend, Siddhishwari, in Barcelona.
Oh, nice.
So, I had planned to see Siddhishwari, who's an old friend, just at the start of the pandemic. And, it got cancelled. So, fingers crossed, I'll still get there. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, I want to thank you, Sraddhagita, for asking such lovely questions and for bringing all your sort of warmth and light to our conversation, sharing the poem. Actually, Sraddhagita, you keep a book of all your poems, and she's always got the right poem for the right occasion when I've ever done anything with you. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you. It's so lovely to talk to Suryagupta about her inspirations and her creativity, and also just sitting next to her, the light. I sort of feel like the light is just shining out of her, which is lovely. Moonlight and sunlight.
And then we were filmed by Pranya Gosha, who's behind the camera.
So thanks to Pranya
thank you as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
Bye-bye.